Hello, and thank you for coming to the McWaters Effect. I'm your host, Matt. Today I'm looking at OAN, but first, I need you to hit like and subscribe. Helps the channel grow. Let's take a look at this news article. Democrats flip-flop on election security, warning of vulnerability in voting systems before 2020 elections. Alright guys, there's a video down here at the bottom, and I'm not going to make any comments after the video, because how long it is, but I would like y'all to give me comments of what you think and the hypocrisy that you saw when it comes to the Democrat Party, how surprised you were and how surprised you weren't. And just let me know what you think. Please hit like and subscribe. It also helps the channel grow. But enjoy the video.
Since November, Democrats have been sneering and mocking anyone who suggested there could possibly be anything wrong with our elections. These are the most transparent, the most secure elections in the history of our nation. No one has ever had more secure elections than this. It's what they're telling us, what they insist is the truth, and what they demand that we believe. But the question is, do they believe it? Well, that is a very good question, and it turns out the truth is whatever they happen to be saying whenever they happen to say it. Because in less than a year, these Democrats have championed both sides of the issue. But don't worry, there's an easy way for you to know exactly what they believe. Just look at who's in office. If a Republican's in office, well, then there was clearly election fraud and the Russians put him there. And if you question that, then you're either a Russian asset or a traitor, probably both. If a Democrat is in office, then obviously he was chosen by the people and ordained by God himself. And if you question that, then you're a dangerous right-wing conspiracy theorist and probably a domestic terrorist to boot. If you want proof, these clips we uncovered of Senator Ron Wyden expose the blatant hypocrisy of Democratic leaders in Washington. Wyden is on record denouncing President Trump's, quote, damaging conspiracy theories about election fraud. Quickly, let's compare that to what Mr. Wyden said in 2018.
At least 44 million Americans, and perhaps millions more, have no choice but to use insecure voting machines that make hackers and hostile foreign governments salivate. It is, in my view, inexcusable that our democracy depends on such hackable voter technology made by a handful of companies that have been able to evade oversight and in fact have actually been stonewalling the Congress for years.
So, which is it, Mr. Wyden? Is there no evidence of significant voting fraud? Or are 44 million Americans forced to use insecure voting machines that make hackers and hostile foreign governments salivate? Maybe we just misunderstood him. Maybe his comments were taken out of context. Let's give him a chance to explain.
The vast majority of 10,000 election jurisdictions nationwide use election management systems that run on old software that is soon going to be out of date and ripe for exploitation by hackers, according to an exhaustive analysis by the Associated Press. Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan, Florida, Iowa, Indiana, Arizona, and North Carolina, among others, are all at risk, according to the Associated Press. Even the state of Georgia, which just passed legislation to buy new voting machines, is on track to buy equipment that suffers from this significant cybersecurity weakness. Of course, our elections weren't secure last week, and they sure as heck aren't secure this week. And anybody who says otherwise is either selling you voting machines or simply has a malicious intent towards our elections. Last year, journalist Kim Zetter in the New York Times reported that ES&S had installed remote access software and wireless modems in election equipment for years. I believe that's about the worst thing you can do in terms of election security in America, short of putting American ballot boxes on a Moscow street. Out of date campaign software is going to be used all over the country unless something is done about it. The agency in charge of protecting our election infrastructure against cyber threats has no idea how many vulnerable voting machines are out there right now. It is perfectly legal for the biggest voting machine company in America, and these voting machine companies basically think they are above the law. They wouldn't even answer basic questions when I ask them. And it is perfectly legal for the biggest one to sell a small county equipment that every cybersecurity expert in America knows is insecure. It is perfectly legal for a county clerk to put the outcome of a presidential election at risk by buying insecure machines.
To Mr. Wyden and to all the other Democrats in the Capitol, do you have so little integrity that you can do such a complete 180 on your own statements on what you passionately claimed you believed just because a fellow Democrat won the election? Where are your impassioned calls for election reform now? Where are your demands for paper ballots and voter ID and election audits? It's probably not surprising then that Mr. Wyden isn't alone in this stunning hypocrisy.
There are a lot of states that are dealing with antiquated machines, right, which are vulnerable to being hacked. I actually held a demonstration for my colleagues here at the Capitol, where we brought in folks who, before our eyes, hacked election machines. Those that are being used in many states.
Workers were able to easily hack into an electronic voting machine. It was possible to switch votes as well as change the volume of data. My view is they don't have to hack 50 states. In a close presidential election, they just need to hack one swing state, or maybe one or two, or maybe just a few counties in one swing state.
In a close presidential election, they just need to hack one swing state. These are their own words. Funny how they sound exactly like what President Trump has been saying since the November election. And then there's Andrew Apple, a professor at Princeton University, who says he was easily able to hack into voting machines which are currently used in dozens of states across the country.
The machine that I hacked is called the Sequoia ABC Advantage, now called the Dominion ABC Advantage. It's in use in almost all of New Jersey and in all of Louisiana and a few counties of Pennsylvania and other states.
Again, this was taken as gospel by Democrats right up until the 2020 election, at which point it suddenly became a right-wing conspiracy theory. In 2019, Senators Amy Klobuchar, Ron Wyden, and Elizabeth Warren all penned a letter to Congress warning that voting electronically was a security risk and that researchers recently uncovered previously undisclosed vulnerabilities in nearly 36 back-end election systems in 10 states. What happened to those investigations? It's galling to think that our leaders, the ones that we presumably elected, but maybe not, are totally indifferent to this kind of hypocrisy and will back whatever position furthers their goal regardless of where they stood on these issues before. Sadly, these are our leaders, spineless and cowardly though they may be. When evidence of election fraud is discovered, it's our duty to investigate. Conducting an audit is not dangerous to election security. It is essential. And any time in the last 4 years these Democrats would have agreed. In fact, they did agree, which means it's up to us, the American people, to protect and preserve our right to democracy and fair elections by demanding audits and investigations into any potential election fraud. That's the only solution. Because clearly, the people in charge, our leaders in Washington, no longer have any interest in fighting for election integrity. For One America News, I'm Pearson Sharp.